Tell me, Ron, do you like magic?
Yeah.
Do you like mornings?
No.
Do you like mornings? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay. And do you like wood? Say yes again. Go on.
Well, you mean like wood to make stuff with,
Any type of wood you were thinking of.
or like a place with lots of trees, or
Yeah, but that would work.
sure, yeah, I like wood too. Yeah.
Well then, Ron, you're in for a treat because this is the magic morning wood.
Oh, okay. I see what you did there. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah. That's good to know. Trying something new.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So are we gonna use that every time now?
No, didn't go as well
Oh,
as expected, but it'll do for this time.
okay. Oh, thank God. Okay. Okay. Well, we got through that. Hi, everybody. Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Magic Morning Wood. How are you, Clive?
I'm well, Ron. That is to say, Ron Scott.
Thank you, Clive Davies
No,
Davis.
Davis, thank you.
Dave Davis, Bill Davies.
Yes, so here we are once more back. So before we get into the meat of today's show, I have a bit of I just realized I forgot. I keep forgetting this is audio only. So I was about to show something to the camera, which will make sense to you,
Yeah.
but to no one else. What am I showing to you there?
Well, Clive is showing me a book called "Think of a Number," a Harper novel of suspense by Anders Bodelson. Bodelson?
Bodelson, I think. Yeah. Is this ringing a bell?
No, not at all. No.
Okay, this is the book.
Should it?
Well, it should, because this is the book that The Silent Partner, which we did for our Christmas episode, was based on.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
the one with Elliot Gould.
Yes, so this is the original Danish in English translation.
Well, think of a number. Well, what is the connection? Think of a number.
Well, it's something that a character says in the book, which I don't think is a line of dialogue in that film.
Okay, so there's okay. So have you read it?
Yeah, well, yes, I did. I got this. I just went on Amazon and just bought, the cheapest one that I could find.
Right.
And it turned out to be this old hardback from like the 70s or something.
Okay, but it's still readable though.
Yeah. No, it's nice. It's a nice edition. I like the cover yeah. So it is quite good. The reason I bring it up is because I thought it was worth mentioning that it's very, very, very close to The Silent Partner, and as we mentioned, there's an earlier Danish film as well called Think of a Number, which we weren't able to see, and I still haven't seen that yet. But it does deviate quite differently in, I suppose, what you'd call the third act.
Okay.
It's quite different, and the ending is a lot different to, totally different to The Silent Partner, and a lot more kind of devastatingly dark in a very low key way that I suppose fans of Scandi Noir might appreciate.
Is that a term, Scandi Noir? I've never heard that before.
Really? All those things fuck, I've forgotten what it was called now. What was the one they remade? And they remade it was American Mexican border body.
Sicario?
No. It was a series. Oh, what the fuck? What was it called?
Dark?
No. The Killing.
Oh, The Killing. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
So if you remember The Killing and The Tunnel and Organ and that whole thing, and the novels of Scandi Noir.
I get it. I mean, I can figure out kind of what the genre means, but I've never heard that as a genre name before.
Oh, okay.
Scandi Noir. Okay.
Scandi Noir, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's actually pretty good, and in a way, it's a shame. I think it's probably best to read it wait until the film's gone out of your mind a bit, because
Uh,
reading it after just having seen it, you're like, oh, I know all that, until it changes, right? So,
right.
but I would recommend it. It's a pretty good read, and I'm quite interested in reading some more of Anders Bordelsson's stuff.
And
I think
so, which would you do? You prefer the ending of the book or the ending of the movie?
I can see maybe why they changed the ending for the silent partner. I don't know how closely the earlier Danish version. I can see why they did it, because it's more of a dynamic movie ending, I guess. But
Right.
we picked it apart a little bit, right? We said,
Right.
it's slightly contrived, and
Uh,
so yes, maybe it would be more interesting to see the book ending filmed, I think. So I'm curious to see the Danish think of a number now, to see which way they went with it, if they stuck to the book or not. But yeah, but
okay.
it's a fun read.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So the algorithm machine is on. You can just about hear it ding in the background, right? I put some.
Bing bong, bing bong, bing bong.
It does that sometimes, but that's when
Bing
something's
bong.
malfunctioning, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think that's yeah. Anyway, that's my night machine. Never mind.
But I put plenty of it's the night machine that allows you to have the magic morning wood in the morning.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, but we don't need to go into that so much.
No, that's very private,
Right.
personal business that no one need know about. So I put coal on the machine, so it's up and running.
Coal
Yeah,
it's a coal running machine. Okay.
yeah.
Kind of like like a steam engine, if you will.
Yes. There's talk of upgrading it. To something a bit more eco-friendly, but we'll see.
So you're well into the fossil fuels, and so
yeah,
we can trace the global warming back to you personally.
Pretty much, yeah. Sorry about that, Dan.
This is not going anywhere. So okay, moving on. What is the movie? So whose turn is it today?
Well, the movie, Ron, a reaction.
Yeah,
to,
no, is was not
a reaction to. What was it a reaction to? Oh yeah, Mobius.
Morbius.
The second Mobius we did, which was an Argentine science fiction film.
Right.
Which we were both. So my response, which turned out to be in error, actually, because I chose the 1969 Argentinian film Invasion, thinking that it was going to be more Argentinian science fiction, but it wasn't. It is Argentinian, it's just not science fiction.
Right.
Although I could cheat, I did mention the Borgesian elements of Mobius, and this is based on a screenplay from Jorge Luis Borges and Adolfo Bioy Casares, who's famous for writing a science fiction novel called Invention of Dr. Morel. So I think just squeeze past.
Sure.
Why not? Well, we watched it, so we might as well talk about it as much as there is to say about it.
Okay, well, I will give you a disclaimer on this before we go into it too much. I could not retain even an iota of information about this movie. I was forgetting it as I was watching it. I couldn't understand what was happening, who anyone was, what they were talking about, what was going on, what the relationship to each other was. And after it was done, I couldn't even remember even having seen the movie. So I know it was black and white and there's an old guy in it, pretty much. So I'm going to be a little bit useless in this conversation. Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit useless. There's just nothing about this movie I could connect with or follow or feel anything about. So
right. Well, I mean, kind of related to that. I mean, in a way, the film almost did totally disappear, not just from your memory. As directed by Hugo Santiago in 1969, and apparently at some point in the late 70s during the military dictatorship, it did go missing.
I think they burned a bunch of it, didn't they, or something?
Something like that. It was some negatives were stolen, and then it wasn't fully restored until 1999.
Right.
But it's now available.
Thank God.
Ron,
thanks you
film
Oh, phew,
preservationists
that
everywhere.
was close. We almost had to live without this.
Yes. Can you imagine a world in which you hadn't seen Invasion Run? It would be a sad world indeed, wouldn't it?
Right.
So yeah, so very basically, it's set in a place called Aquileia in 1957, but Aquileia, I guess, is a stand-in for Buenos Aires, right? As far as
Buenos
I
Aires, right.
figure out. And there seems to be an impending invasion of some sort, which is never
But
really
not an alien invasion.
not an alien. Well, to be honest, I didn't think it was going to be an alien invasion story, but I thought it was going to be more along the lines of the sort of the more existential science fiction of Mobius. But there wasn't that either. No science fiction in this. I don't think. Yeah, no, I don't think. I mean, a film it reminded me a little bit in some ways was that the Godard film Alphaville, and that's only kind of borderline science fiction in a way, in so much as it's set in the future. But even that doesn't apply here, right? It's a science fiction free zone. I think it's free.
Right. Yes. I mean, yeah. I mean, I even texted you.
You did.
This last week.
You were all
as I was
about it. You were. Well, Clive.
You always
certainly Argentinian.
You always impose some haughtiness on my text, but
that's how I read your voice in the text.
Yeah, I know that because that's how you think I talk all the time. But
that's
the
right.
point was I was actually trying to find to send you a GIF, one of those GIF or GIF.
Yes, because you know how much I love those.
I know you hate them, so that's why I do it specifically to do it, because I know you hate them. And
I was trying to have to deal with, listeners? It's a man willing to antagonize me.
And so the one I was trying to find was the line from The Princess Bride, when Inigo Montoya, Mandy Patinkin's Inigo Montoya says, "I do not think that word means what you think it means." Right? So,
okay, you couldn't find it,
but I couldn't find it, so that's why I didn't send it. So, but I just sort of sent it. So I was like, so I don't think invasion means what you think it's supposed to mean in this case, right? So,
yes.
And thinking that maybe I thought that you thought that it meant alien invasion, but at the very least, but it wasn't that either. But I was like, well, as I said, I have no idea what's happening in this movie, but I'm pretty sure it's not science fiction.
Right. Also, the reference went over my head. So without the context, say, I don't think it means what you sounds more haughty as well, if you see what I mean. So that's why I
don't think it.
Yes.
Did I read that?
Correct me if
I don't think.
I always read my name dripping in sarcasm as well for some reason.
Don't think you chose very well this week.
Anyway, be that as it may, so there's some sort of impending invasion, and there's I guess a resistance force in the city which is aware this is happening. So it seems as if they're awaiting some sort of shipment of arms or something like that, and in order to defend themselves. So basically, there's a lot of cloak and dagger people, a lot of walking, if you like walking,
lots of walking.
Yeah, a lot of walking around the city, passing on secret messages or notes or things like that. Kind of like a French resistance kind of style, I guess. There's the occasional shootout, not much, an explosion, a fire, and just lots of people speaking in whispered tones and walking.
Yeah, lots of whispering, lots of people talking about non sequiturs that have nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, looks nice. I would say the black and white cinematography by Ricardo Aranovich is very nice. Some of the sound design, I guess, one Edgardo Centon is credited with music. Some of the sound design is kind of interesting. There's a lot of kind of incongruous noises that don't match what's actually happening on screen and stuff like that, which is a little bit interesting. But yes, I will agree with you, Ron. This is a very, 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 very slow going film that almost seems actively trying to push you away as to suck you in, right?
Yeah, I would say, if anything, it's almost, I'm going to use a theater term, which I'm not sure if you are, but certainly listeners may not be familiar with. I feel like very Brechtian.
Yes, the
Yeah,
alienation device.
yeah, the alienation, right? So it's the idea that it was almost like, as I was saying, I was forgetting the film as I was watching it, and I think it was almost doing that on purpose, right?
I
It was
agree.
almost like it was almost like an anti propaganda film. Like it was sort of like, yeah, don't follow us, don't learn anything about this. It's just like, yeah, so yeah, so it's, yeah, I don't know. Like it was almost like daring me to actually pay attention.
Yeah,
It was,
no, I
yeah.
agree with you.
So
That's the takeaway I had as well was I don't think this film's in I don't think this film is in error. I don't think it's not doing what it's intending to do. I
oh
think
yeah, yeah,
it's exactly intended to have this effect, but
right.
whether that's an effect you want to experience
You,
is kind of
it,
another question, right?
like, yeah. I mean, I get it. There are films like this, but I myself can't understand why you would make a film that makes people not want to watch your film. Like it's sort of like, I get that that's some people's intention, but it just doesn't seem to be an intention that I subscribe to. Right. So yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah. I
think
wanted to really figure out what was happening. I wanted to learn something, but I just, yeah, I couldn't get interested, or I couldn't
right.
follow anything what was happening. I
I
just
don't think you're
couldn't find
missing.
it.
I don't think you're missing the point. I think
Mm,
I think that is totally the story. It's just an
right,
impending invasion. Some people try and stop it, and it doesn't
right,
really work. And then, yeah, there's some like landing craft and stuff at the end of planes, and I don't know, there's a
right.
Bay of Pigs or something.
And I
Um,
think there was, I'm not entirely sure, but I think there was a twist ending where it turned out that the people in charge of the resistance was actually working for them the whole time.
yeah,
Was that
yeah, it was.
is
Yeah,
that what happened?
yeah. They kind of tried to pull off like yeah, like it's all a bit of a sort of yeah,
It was like the old guy and the guy and the other guy's wife actually were working for the invaders the whole time, or
right. Like they kind of almost made sure it
maybe.
didn't work. They were yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah,
Again, a bit of a Bay of Pigs kind of thing there.
right.
Yeah, so I I have to admit I didn't find it total. I agree with you. It is. I would be being disingenuous if I said it wasn't boring. It is largely boring for a lot. But I didn't find it entirely without interest. The kind that concept in itself is kind of a little bit interesting, and there were bits of it like there's some little set pieces which kind of worked because I like the look of the film. I really like
Uh,
the look of the film, and it's a kind of film I would like to enjoy. I think,
yeah,
but yeah, I I think we're also dealing somewhat with time as well, right? Like
right. Yeah,
a lot of um more avant-garde things in films have been so absorbed over the years.
uh,
Like we know like we may not know it directly, but we know it second hand or third hand. Like ideas, like you said, of Brecht alienation device or stuff like that are so embedded in modern films and television. Even if you don't know that's what you're responding to, that is sometimes what you're responding to. But they've become
right.
to see them in their kind of not original form, but seeing them in a more primitive form. Whereas I
Uh,
think when it was new, if you might have been younger and you saw it in a thing, you might, this is so, this is forcing us away from the screen. Oh, my beret is about to fall off. I am so
oh,
impressed by what.
why are you French?
Yeah, you've got to be French to be doing all that. But
I
nowadays
guess
it's
there's a lot
it's
of
like
like kind of.
for a modern audience who kind of imbibed that stuff secondhand in a way, it's slightly less impressive, and then what you're left with is the story itself or the film itself, right?
Right.
Which is just, and it's 2 hours long. It's worth mentioning
Yeah,
as
it
well.
was long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't hate it with the passion what I might hate some of the films that I don't, which I think are in, don't deserve their status or whatever. But I can't say I'm rushing to watch it again
Mm.
either. Um,
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever watch it again. I'm pretty sure I'll give it a pass. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, if there was some key to unlock it or something like that, I'm happy to at least entertain the thought that it's possible to
Yeah.
get something out of this film.
What I mean, was it supposed to be talking, like, was it supposed to be paralleling some Argentinian political party or something, or a political situation at the time? I'm I'm not really up on my Argentinian politics. So
Well, I
other
think
than
you
the
probably.
Perones, I don't know, which was before this, I guess, right?
I
So
think there's a reason that later on that that it was seized on and tried to destroy it.
right,
But I don't think it's necessarily a specific event. I think you could use it as a parallel for all sorts of resistance groups, right? Or
right.
I don't think it's that specific. And
Okay,
yeah, I don't think there's like, if you knew about the real life, you'd be and okay, now I get it, because I think you have enough. We both have enough general world history knowledge to kind of deal with it, what it's talking about. I think.
right.
I don't think there's a gap in our knowledge necessarily. Although, yeah, like I said, I'm if there could, I can see a potential future where I might read another certain thing or hear about something else and then rewatch it in light of that, and kind of there might be another layer. But for now, I'm not getting that, and I'm not entirely
Right.
convinced that I'm missing anything either. But
Right, right.
but I wouldn't be, we talked about this before. Sometimes when you're not ready for something, you don't get it, but there's like a little tickle at the back of your brain where you feel as if, there's more to this, but I'm not getting it. I'm not
Right.
getting that tickle, but at the same time, I'm not definitively saying, that there's nothing here. There could be,
Right.
but I'm not getting the tickle.
And you're not that interested enough to figure it out if there is something more.
No, not really.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm slightly interested in, because I am a big Borges fan, and I've not read Adolfo Bioy Casares's invention of Dr. Morel, but apparently that's a great novel. So I want to read that, and then I'm a Borges completist. And then the other thing as well is, one of the actors in this, the guy who plays the old man with the cat, if you remember, is a Juan Carlos Paz, who was a composer apparently primarily. Well, the character he plays apparently is based on this writer who I've never heard of, called Macedonia Fernandez, who apparently was a mentor to Borges and a very big influence. So I suppose it's possible, if you were to root around in their bibliographies, if you found something more directly related to invasion, that could be an interesting hatch into it.
Right.
But for now, no.
Mobius, of course, was the train-based science fiction movie, so I decided to go with train. So I decided to just pick a movie that involved the train or was about a train. So inspired by
it's Thomas and the Magic Railroad, isn't it? With Peter Fonda and Thomas the Tank and
Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah.
So I decided to be inspired by Gino and go with a silent film, which was Buster Keaton's 1926 movie, The General. Yeah. I decided to go with this for a few reasons. Mostly in that I've always been curious by Buster Keaton and his sort of body of work, but I'm not familiar with it as much as so and being someone who is a fan of and a student of comedy, and considering Buster Keaton is still quoted as or still not quoted but noted as a lot of even present day comedians sort of influences, even here it is like 100 years later. I figured it's about time that I sort of saw some of his movies. Right. So
had you not seen The General before then?
No, never seen The General. I don't think I've seen any Buster Keaton movies.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So, which is surprising because I should have by now, right? So I was like, well, this is a big one about a train, and maybe it's time that I watch one. So yes, this movie, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is from 1956, and he plays sort of a young man who is at the outbreak of the American Civil War in 1961, which I know because I've just been studying American history, and he wants to join the Confederate Army, which were the bad guys.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
The people who are fighting.
We're going for a very stripped down version of history.
Well, I mean, it was literally we want slavery, we don't, right? So I mean, you can pretty much. I'd say it was the one of the big battles in history, similar to World War II, where you can say there was a good side and a bad side.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that it's. I think you can go there and not be too wrong. But anyway, so he was wanted to go on the Confederate Army, got rejected because he's a train engineer, and they thought he'd be more useful to them as a train driver, train engineer. But that he really, really wants to be in it because his lady love, Annabelle Lee, played by Marion Mack, sort of wants him to be in the military, and thinks and her dad as well, says you should be, if you were a brave man, and then I want you to be in the military. So he really wants to do it, and wants to fight for his his part of the country, I suppose. And so anyway, he goes off on an adventure, and as he's so he's trying to be in the military, and he finds out that the evil Union military have infiltrated their territory and put on some Confederate uniforms, and has stolen his beloved train, called the General. And so he goes off on like a fun-filled adventure to get his train back. And they've also kidnapped Annabelle, and so he's got to get her back as well, right? So he's and of course it's typical Buster Keaton fashion, is lots of slapstick and physical comedy, especially being a silent film. It's mostly really heavily leans on the physical, of course, right? So as they tend to. And so then he ends up becoming sort of a military hero by the end through I mean, that's sort of skipping over a lot, but it's essentially he's got lots of he's basically single-handedly fighting the Union Army to get his train back, and chasing after them, and throwing stuff on the tracks, stopping them from they've got this sort of finds himself under the table during a Union military meeting at one point, and he finds out their secret plans, and he goes to tell his his side, what's going to happen, and then he ends up sort of like single-handedly foiling their plans by like bombing a bridge and things like that. So and yeah, so anyway, I mean, there's lots of, I mean, you can go scene by scene if you really wanted to, but I think that's essentially in the
No, I
in the
think there's
movie.
plenty of academics have done that ahead of us, right? So
Yeah, yeah, right, yeah.
okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, I don't think we're going to say anything today that hasn't been said in a library of books already by now, right?
No.
So yeah, yeah. So, but I mean, I assume you've seen the general before.
Yeah, I've seen it a few times over the years.
Uh-huh.
First time I think it turned up on telly when I was a kid, and I was into silent comedy in general. I think I started off. I think my dad showed me like Harold Lloyd. I think was actually my first,
Okay.
and then yeah, Buster Keaton, and then I was less Chaplin than Keaton and Lloyd because obviously I'm impressed and by Chaplin, and I did like the Gold Rush and stuff. But I think I like that because it had the stunt element that Keaton and Lloyd had as well, right? Not just the
So
comedy.
you said you like Keaton better than Chaplin?
Yeah, Keaton's
Yeah.
more my speed, and Lloyd as well. Just because of the stunt work. I think it's because
Right, right.
of the stunt. I know there is a certain amount of physical agility and stuff that Chaplin does as well, and that's one of the reasons I like Gold Rush because of that famous scene, in the storm. But the general, yeah, I've seen it a few times over the years, and it is even if you don't dig silent comedy, just in terms of if you're a fan of like action and stunts, it's such a key early work.
I mean, when you think of the fact that this is 1926, it's just after basically the invention of movies, basically, right?
Yeah.
And you think of, I mean, they didn't really have they didn't have green screens or
Oh
stunt
no.
work or this was all him on an actual
Oh yeah.
train
Oh
doing
yeah.
this fully, which is it's really blows your mind when you think
It
about
is.
the amount of like actual like like really truly death defying acts that this
Yeah.
guy did to make this movie. So yeah, so it's
And you have to think about it as well, because on top of that, he makes it look so effortless.
effortless. Yes, yeah.
It's incredible. There's actually you were talking about getting into Keaton and stuff. There's actually a good starting point is a few years ago before he died, Peter Bogdanovich made a documentary called The Great Buster about Buster Keaton,
Right.
which is a really good entry point. And then if you want to go a bit further, there's a Kevin Brownlow made like a 3-part TV documentary in the 90s, I think, called what's it called? Buster Keaton Hard Act to Follow, which is a bit more detailed. But both of those are good starting points. And there's a bit in The Great Buster where they mention a scene in one of his films. I can't even remember what it was, but there's a scene. It's almost like a throwaway gag where like a trolley or a bus goes past him in the background, and he just reaches his hand out, grabs hold of the back of it, and then the vehicle pulls him, so he's like horizontal in the air, like
Right.
almost like a throwaway gag. And like you said, no green screen, nothing like that. He's doing that stunt.
He's doing that, yeah.
But specifically that stunt, they were apparently experts have looked at it over the years, filmmakers, stuntmen, and they're looking at it and they're like, how did he actually do that? Like, how did he physically do that? Like, they still can't figure out how he did, a lot of stuff that he did. So yeah, it's a bit, but so effortless that you almost take it for granted, right? And
right, yeah.
If you actually went back and you counted all the stunts that he does in this, even like little ones, like, and if you counted them up, it's like, holy shit.
Yeah. It's incredible. Yeah. So
he's like the original Jackie Chan, right?
Yeah. I guess you could say like that. Yeah, without the martial arts, but yeah, definitely like the amount of effort that you did, even just like 1 second of screen time would require so much planning and sort of stunt people and all stuff, which I don't know how he did a lot of this, like, and these are all, and it's fully written by him too, everything, so everything was from his brain, all mostly done by him, and so it's
co-directed with Clyde Bruckman, right? Because obviously he needed someone, because he's on screen the whole time.
You can't do everything, right? So yeah, and they didn't have the tools that they have now to direct yourself, I guess, right? So
right.
yeah. But yeah, but I'm so glad that I finally got around to watching at least some Keaton and it certainly opened my eyes, and I definitely will be checking out more Keaton, because it's, yeah, I've known Buster Keaton. He's still like a household name,
Right.
amazingly 100 years later. I mean, there's not a lot of other silent film actors that people still remember or talk about, right? So Buster Keaton is still noteworthy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that says all you really need to say, I think, right, about that, which is, and that this movie, I don't know where it falls in his filmography in terms of how impressive it is, but
I
I
think
have to say I was really impressed by it. So
it is considered one of his classics, and
right, yeah,
one of his personal favorites as well. It's interesting as well as now I was kind of thinking about it. So it is based on, apparently it's based on this memoir by William Pettinger, which is based, I'm guessing loosely, but based on a real life case where some Confederate soldiers, I think they're called the Northern Raiders or something, they did go undercover, and and they broke up train lines and stuff, and there's a Disney film as well from the 50s, apparently based on the same thing, called The Great Locomotive Chase, which I've not seen, but kind of
yeah,
quite interested to see
yeah.
um, that. But it's interesting that he did decide to make a story from the Confederate point.
Yeah, that's one thing that I was a little confused about, because I mean, by this point, of course, the war was over, and I mean, this would have been just after women got the vote too. So we're in the starting into the progressive, kind of a little bit more of a progressive side of American politics and stuff. So I was really surprised why he decided to be the hero on the losing side, right? Because I mean, they've already lost by this point. So yeah, I mean, and yeah, do you have any ideas about that?
I don't know. The only thing I can think of was he found this source material, this memoir, and just decided to just go with it rather than rewrite it or anything. Like,
Right,
why not? I mean, yeah, like over 60 years had passed, so I'm guessing it would have been relatively uncontroversial even in the 20s to because they don't get into any of the politics, right? They don't get into
right,
any of the reasons why this war might be occurring. Anything. It's
right, right,
almost
right,
it's just a conflict, right? It's a conflict.
right.
I suppose more problematic now for modern viewers would be a bit more the whole thing about you know Marion Mack like insisting like don't come round here again till you're in uniform,
Right, yeah, yeah,
and I because it would have been so simple. I understand. Obviously, this is the thing that they've added to the film, right? I doubt this is in the original.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, yeah.
And it would have been so simple for him to just say, no, 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 no. They said I can't join because I'm a secretary, but he doesn't
Right.
do any of that. So everyone just is
Well,
the coward.
if you want to follow that train of thought, train of thought,
Aha, very good.
is that why didn't they just tell him why they wouldn't let him join? Right. So there was like, no, don't. He wants to join, but he's an engineer. Oh, don't let him join because we need him as an engineer. Oh,
That,
sorry, we don't want you. And then he's like, well, why don't you want me? And then he's like, sort of, if they just said, look, we need you to be an engineer, he
yeah,
would have probably just said, oh, okay, right.
yeah,
So, but
yeah.
the whole thing was kind of based on the fact that they wouldn't even tell him why they didn't want him. So,
So I don't think you'd get a character like that today, right? Even in a big mainstream Hollywood movie where the main female love interest would refuse because you're not a soldier, you haven't gone.
right, yeah,
It's not a modern sensibility, right?
right.
So there's that.
So,
There's a few little things you have to overlook, but
yeah.
but apart from those little bits, it's amazing how uh, not even not dated it is. Like if you saw a film pulling off these kind of stunts now and real collapsing railroad bridges and you'd
Yeah.
be holy shit, this is pretty
It,
fucking impressive, right?
I mean, this was essentially like a popcorn movie from the 20s, right? It's like
Yeah, absolutely.
this is like a blockbuster. I mean, this is like this the equivalent of like a Marvel movie, basically from the
Yeah,
20s, right? So yeah, I mean, it was impressive to watch, especially on its own merit. Never mind thinking that it was 100 years ago, right? So it's so good for them, yeah. So it was great and good for him. So it was. I'm so glad I was able to finally watch it. I mean, you can pick it apart really when you want to go to it, but it really comes down to it. It's just like it's
why would you want
impressive.
to? Yeah,
It's
oh,
why would
it
you want to? I mean, it's been picked apart by millions of people. I'm sure there's books written about this movie, and about Buster Keaton in general. But it was so I would say it was eye opening for me, and really I was quite really impressed by it. So
Right, right.
and by him especially.
That's
I
it.
mean, that's the whole and the
Buster
whole thing that
Keaton,
he
Buster Keaton now on your now you yeah, he's on your
yeah.
kind of wall of
Well, he's always kind of been. I mean, I mean, the reverence that even modern day comedians hold for someone 100 years ago
right.
always kind of stood out to me, and it was like, oh, I've never really seen anybody, but I know that he must be great because everyone loves him so much. He's up there, I guess, with Chaplin, right? So, but yeah, so I'm just glad I was finally able to see it and kind of get it. I didn't realize that a lot of the stuff, his I mean, it's great timing, like really, really just
Oh yeah.
amazing comic timing. Like it's unparalleled. It's amazing, really. And I guess I didn't realize that he was considered that his nickname is the Great Stone Face. Have you heard
Face.
this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So I didn't know that. That was one I didn't know because a lot of the stuff he does, you can imagine someone like Jim Carrey or like one of those
literally
other
not
like
the stone face. Right.
yeah, yeah. Where the reaction, it's always like a lot of the stuff that a lot of his comedy was something happening in the background that we see as the audience, but he doesn't see it as the character until a few seconds later. So that's a lot of the happening. It was kind of a running gag where something is happening that we know, but he doesn't see it, and then he finally notices it. He's got he's got the double take or the triple take, sorry, and but usually when they do the double take or the triple take and they notice it, then it's sort of like a big facial reaction. But he
Mm.
doesn't even react to it, which is yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even occur to me that would be a funny thing, right? So yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, the stone face thing is great. And as well, if you put it into context as well of like all the other people around him, and when you're talking in general, silent movie acting does have to be very emotive, right?
Right.
Um, but yeah, it's almost counterintuitive what he's doing for
Exactly. Exactly.
his time, right? But
Right.
it's fantastic. It works so well. Like,
Yeah. And so that's what I think was really impressive about it, is that I mean, not only is he like an unparalleled physical comedian with great timing and like doing all these death-defying stunts at the same time, but like he does it in a way that you wouldn't expect to do it. Like, because you usually would be
right,
like oh, there's something happening behind me, like big like rubber
right,
face,
right.
or, like big reaction, especially yeah, being in films. But the fact that there is no reaction, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly what you said. It was the choice that you wouldn't expect him to make, but it worked perfectly, right? So I guess that was what he was famous
yeah.
for, right? So it was,
I think
yeah. So
he's also the original, like, he's the original great kind of every man underdog kind of hiding his talent under a bushel kind of thing as well. Like not just his characters, but him as well. Because if you consider the stunts that he's just not only in this film but across his career, he was clearly a man in fantastic physical condition, and
right,
not just comic timing, but just timing in general. And
right,
so many of the stunts that he's famous for, like the one we spoke of Jackie Chan earlier, the one that Jackie Chan copied in Project A, when the facade of the building falls down, and he has to be in exactly the right spot where
right, yeah, exactly, yeah,
like clearly this was a man like in amazing physical condition, but he on screen he just looks dowdy and skinny and like
yeah,
he
yeah, yeah.
doesn't look muscled and ripped. But
I'm so glad.
and
Yeah,
the only other thing the other big from what I know, there's three huge influences on Jackie Chan, right? There was Jean Paul Belmondo, who died last year, I think, a little bit later on. But from the silent era, you've got Buster Keaton and Douglas Fairbanks, right? And
right,
swashbuckling.
right,
But
right.
again, Douglas Fairbanks looked swashbuckling and heroic and took his top off and all that, right? But Buster Keaton's hard as fucking nails, right? But if you saw it walking about it, you just think, oh, it looks like someone's granddad or something. Like he just doesn't look like a tough.
I mean, yeah, I'm so glad that was actually the next thing I was going to mention too. You keep getting
Sorry.
stuff before I say no, but that's exactly. I was like, again, as I said, I wasn't familiar with Buster Keaton as an actor and as a person. I knew of him, but I didn't even know what he looked like. And I was like, oh, that's Buster Keaton. He looks so unassuming. Like he looks just like like the guy lives down the street, looks like anybody, right? So doesn't look like a movie star, certainly, right?
No,
So first of all, it's amazing that they gave him the chance to do that, because usually they were giving like really, I guess, beautiful people of that time, I guess, for the chances, because it was all physical. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like he must be, if he takes his shirt off, he's probably like super ripped,
mm,
because the amount of strength he had to have to do some of those stunts was probably impressive, right? So yeah, absolutely right. It was, he looks so diminutive too. He looks quite short
yeah,
for that.
yeah, yeah.
So he's just a little guy, right? So he's yeah, it's really, yeah. I was
Proper,
yeah.
proper little tough
It was
guy,
a,
right?
sorry?
Proper little tough guy,
Yeah,
but
for a little tough guy, yeah.
unassuming.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I have to say that, I mean, it was a transformative experience for me, I think. So it was, I mean, yeah, it was really eye-opening. I mean, I knew of it. I mean, I knew that it was going to do that, right? So, but I was kind of prepared for it. But yeah, and it definitely, it surpassed or exceeded all my expectations. So I'm so glad I got around to finally watching it. So yeah,
Glad to hear
and
it.
him.
No, yeah, no, it's definitely, yeah. If you, obviously, I don't think you're alone. There are probably plenty of other people out there as well who have, kind of know who Buster Keaton is, know the reputation, but maybe thus far have kind of somehow not actually seen any. I mean, see this, and then yeah, if you want to go further, like I said, that Bogdanovich documentary, The Great Buster, from a few years ago, is a really good point to continue your studies. And
Right.
yeah,
I'm curious. Like couldn't help but to imagine what kinds of movies Buster Keaton would make if he were alive today. You know what I mean? So, or if he was in that condition today, right? So in that, so, or if they would even let him. I don't, who
But
knows?
that's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah.
I suppose. I mean,
I know. I know he was around when they made the transition to talkies. Did and I know he did do some talkies later in his
yeah,
career,
yeah. It
right?
was up into the '60s. He's in films. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. So
like,
was he as popular in the talkies as he was as a silent film actor?
um, that's a good question. Actually, I'm trying to think if most of his successes were certainly in the silent era. I'm just trying to think if he did any big ones. I think there are a couple early talkies. When was Sherlock Jr.? I think Sherlock Jr. might have been a talkie. So yeah, I think he was. I think he did. What I mean is, I don't think the transition necessarily destroyed him in the way it destroyed other people, right? Like,
Right.
a lot of silent stars didn't survive because, they their voices didn't match.
Hi.
Like, yeah, yeah,
Very hey, like he looks very swashbuckling, like, hi, I'm John.
yeah, exactly. But I suppose in his case, you the his characters are stoic even for silent movie characters, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
As if they're particularly verbose, like they don't have
Right.
much things to read, right?
Right.
Yeah, so and his voice matched that. If I'm thinking what Buster Keaton sounded like, I think Buster Keaton sounded like you expected Buster Keaton to sound like.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Okay, well,
it's amazing. I suppose, yeah, nowadays I suppose you got people like Tom Cruise and stuff doing their own stunts or whatever, but somehow
uh,
that doesn't seem that's not really this. It's not really the same thing, is it?
uh,
Like I
yeah. But yeah, I've heard recently that like Keanu still does all his stunts and stuff like that. Even he's like in his almost
mm,
60 now too, so which is impressive in itself. But of course they had like, they've got like, safety experts and and wiring and like
yeah, yeah.
stunt coordinators and people so it's not the same as, I'm sure it was just Buster saying like, okay, I'm gonna grab onto this train and it's gonna pull me,
Yeah,
right? And as it hit, they're like, okay, well, Buster says let's do it,
yeah.
right? So yeah, pulls his arm
Plus,
off, oh well, right?
plus as well, when these modern guys do it, you fucking hear about it, right? Whereas
Yeah.
Buster Keaton was just doing this stuff
Yeah,
all the
it
time,
was just
right?
it was just another day, right? So it was just another day at work for him. So
And I think, to your point as well, like surprising that someone like that, because I think it is because the proof is in the pudding, right? Like he just did stuff that other people weren't doing, and there's like, yeah, we don't care. He doesn't look like Douglas Fairbanks, or he's
right,
look,
yeah,
just look at
yeah.
the
Look at
notes.
what he can do. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm glad I saw it. Were you okay to watch it again for?
Oh
You
yeah, yeah. I mean, it had been a while anyway, and it's always a joy. It's still like it never stops being surprising. It's like, holy fuck, like,
Yeah.
there's always some other, and there's always some because there are the more grandstand pieces like the bridge collapsing and the train and some of that stuff. And then it allows, like, there's one bit on this I noticed, like when he just, again, throwaway thing where someone turns away and walks into their house and he steals their penny farthing, like he jumps on a penny farthing and rides off. And just that, compared to the other stuff, it's small fry, but you think you have to commit to a jump like that, right? Like there's no, there's no kind of half-assedly doing it. You have to commit, otherwise you're going to get quite badly injured, even doing something relatively simple like that, or the stuff on the hand cart, and this time I was just noticing slightly smaller things, and thinking, you think about doing them yourself, and then you think, fuck no, I'm not doing that. And that's just, that's the small everyday stuff, right, for him.
Right. Yeah.
So all hail Buster Keaton, I think.
Yeah, good old Buster. Yeah, nice. Okay, good. Well, I'm glad I was able to watch it again. Yeah, so and keep the train. Maybe we'll pick another Buster for next time, because now we're going.
Next time we're both responding to the general, right? So let's see where it goes. So until then, bye then.
See ya.
That was shit ending, wasn't it?